Thank you so much for taking out time. And after a long time, physical event, gives you that energy. Do you agree or not? So the topic is future is coming and sooner than you think. Redefining speed of innovation. Innovation is often like a cornerstone of the conversations around startup community. Uh, I mean, it has become a stereotype to talk about it, but I'll rephrase it. I'll disrupt it here. So my question, starting with you, I want to start with Pranit. Should I come to you first because your name is here first? So I start with it. Uh, so often spoken about innovation. It's such a generic, broad term. What is true innovation actually, in your view?
For me, I think I value time a lot. So whatever innovation happens to save time, that is very important, though I'm late for this event. But yeah, this is the first thing. And the second thing is innovation has to have too much amount of value. So it should actually optimize the productivity. So that's what I think innovation is for me.
Okay. Karthik, we were discussing outside, and you shared some very interesting things that, innovation also means a certain kind of social impact, not just a new product. Just tell the audiences who are some of them, startup owners as well. Please share your thoughts.
Thanks for asking that. I think it's a quick reminder for most of the entrepreneurs where sometimes we get lost in thinking innovation is all about coming up new tech apps. But sometimes innovation is all about creating an impact in the society we live in, the families around us. So understanding societal issues, and if you could come up with innovation that solves everyday issues, that's the first innovation I would say, where it changes the way we live life. So broadly, to answer your question.
Sairaj. So I was talking about innovation, such a generic term now. We often use it to an extent that we abuse it. So what is true innovation from your perspective? What would you call a true innovation?
So I feel that innovation is basically has two things to it. One is when you see a gap in some kind of service or product and you can fill that gap, I think that is innovation. And the second is when there is a service or a product which is not being done great and you think you can really disrupt it or bring value to it, I again feel that is innovation. So things with which you can make life better, easier, and more convenient, and give the world a better product. That is innovation, according to me.
Karthik, I want to come to you. You've started this concept of, assisted living, though it's been around but not practiced in India, if I'm right.
Right.
Now it's coming here, and you have taken a big step. Successful things are happening in that venture. Tell me, how often, what was the idea behind it, first of all, and how often do entrepreneurs need to look at their idea and retest it, reimagine it? Do you get time to do it?
Absolutely. As going back to where I started about social innovation, the idea first comes from looking around, right? If you look around and see what are the problems the society is facing, if you're able to understand that, that's the first step. The whole concept of assisted living is very new to India. I mean, retirement homes exist, but assisted living is really understanding the day-to-day issues of an elderly. Let's say an elderly is living alone. There are several issues they face. But what we end up addressing is mostly in the current environment is the real estate space. But we forget the services from day to day to medical to social to emotional. All that, unless if it's thought through and packaged, being grounded with the customer in mind, you're going to miss the true essence of innovation and the true essence of a solution to a customer. So that is first most important point, is to understand your customer at all times and being grounded with them. Sometimes in startup world, we forget how important it is the continuous quality monitoring, which really keeps the startups get lost in the world of valuation and or in the world of the glam and the media sometimes. So continuous quality monitoring is kept us always identifying what are the improvement areas, And having systems in place to identify those issues has helped us get going, to continuously test the issues we face, and to continuously come up with solutions to address those issues.
How often do disruptive ideas need to be revisited? Do you do that, or do you think that my idea is innovative enough and it has a shelf life that's going to be there for next 3 years? How soon should be the cycle of innovation?
For me, I think the kind of business model I have developed, I think I'm always looking for ideas. I innovate things, but I actually give it to people, and then people decided whether it was innovative or not. So I'm more of an mistake seeker, so that I can simply see my mistakes a lot, and actually I can come up with a much better product. So I think after every 3 months we are trying to do something new in our business, and we are trying to come up with new ideas that can help people get more fitter. But finally it is all about the way people want to consume the product. So I'm just keeping myself available every time to my each and every customer to actually criticize me enough to make sure that I'm coming up with a better quality of the product.
Jumping from a virtual to a physical will take time. No worries. Thank you. I'll come to you. We are on a second question, by the way, not very far. Sairaj, I want to tell the audience first that Sairaj, look at what innovation can do. He has taken one product, would you believe, it's just one fruit called jackfruit, and the entire business is running around it. First, give them a sense of how you're disrupting that space. See, what innovation can do is minuscule thing like, for outsider, it's just one fruit, but for somebody, it's a whole business. Give us a sense of how you made that one fruit into a disruptive business, and what is the cycle of innovation that one must follow?
So we're using the fruit called jackfruit, the superfood, in fact, called jackfruit. And we are making products out of jackfruit, which are the best and the most natural mock meats and plant-based meat alternatives that are available, not only in India, but globally. So we in India never valued jackfruit, and 75% of jackfruit goes waste every year in India. 1.4 million tons of it is grown in 14 different states in India. So I realized that across the world, jackfruit was touted as a superfood, and people were consuming it, taking it from India. So the little that was being processed was taken outside India. No one in India understood and valued the importance of jackfruit. So that's where I saw a whole big option available of innovation, and where we could transform this humble jackfruit of ours into something which the world is taking note of. And that's how we make products from jackfruit. So one thing that you need to understand is jackfruit has the most natural fibrous texture. We don't need to process it at any level to get that fibrous meaty texture out of it. And that is our biggest USP, because we have a very natural mock meat available without any preservatives in it. We have a 1-year shelf life for our product. And what this does today is gives our agricultural base, that is our farmers, a huge lease of life, because people were now cutting down jackfruit trees because they were just waste, and it is to just bring in not needed attention from the cattle and stray animals, because no one was consuming jackfruit. It's a very difficult fruit to cut and cook. Like, people who would have cooked jackfruit would understand that it's a very stubborn food. So we give you a ready to cook version of it, which makes it very nice. And the innovation in this is that you have a ready to cook product and you have it available 365 days a year now, whereas it's a seasonal fruit normally. So so that's what we've done.
And the cycle of disruption, how often should you revisit
Yeah.
your idea?
So I believe there's a cliche saying which goes that the only constant is change, or change is the only constant. So you just need to keep on reinventing, innovating, because if nothing, then you'll have a competitor who will come and try and copy you, and who will try and have a version of yours. So you need to always be 2 steps ahead of time. You need to understand what your consumer wants and what's the next step, and keep innovating, keep bringing in new products, keep bringing in new ways of consuming your product. So I think you need to innovate every
Yeah.
single day.
I think it sounds like you need to be like the software version 1, version 2 of your company and then version 3, right?
Just follow Apple. They keep.
Or follow Bollywood, Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, right?
Yeah. No, but on a serious note, yes, you need to keep on innovating to keep your audience really, really excited, and they need to look forward to what's coming next.
Great. So the jackfruit is not that humble. Please do have your jackfruits. Akshay, my first question to them was that we talk about innovation so broadly that everyone uses it. But what is true innovation in your view? I mean, we were just discussing, does it mean that it has to have a certain commercial impact or a certain social impact? In your view, what is true innovation?
I think innovation truly needs to have a commercial or a social impact, because otherwise it's more of a R&D project rather than a innovation in its true sense. Because if it is not adding any purpose, any value to somebody's daily life, or creating a larger impact at a global level, then it is not an innovation. It is more of a hobby project of your own at an individual level. Yeah, so that's my take on it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I haven't come to you on this, Praneeth. Did I? I haven't, yes. Um, my question to you, same, is, let me begin. I read somewhere that true innovation happens in any firm when you look beyond capital. But capital is such a tempting thing to not look at. Do you believe that innovation can happen without looking at the capital as well, just the pure idea?
Actually, I'm the true believer of it because uh, when I started Fitness Talks, I wasn't looking at it the way it grew, and then today it is. So I started from 80 rupees per session as a personal trainer. So the thing is, I was just making sure that I am getting enough amount of clients so that I'll be able to sustain for next 2-3 months. And it grew up to that level where I'm making sure that at least 500 people are turning up for the program, and then my teammates will be able to cater them the best services. So innovation was my let's say responsibility to keep on coming up with new ideas and how we can simply come up with new plans, keep ourselves updated with the kind of nutrition knowledge which is getting evaluated in every six months, because fitness industry is constantly growing, it's constantly changing. Every time if you look up to the trends, every after 3 months you will be able to listen something different. And because of the too much amount of diversification, we have to come up to the point where the problem is I have to uh, create something which can be a benchmark of fitness, or which can be a benchmark of my quality, and also make people aware about it, that this is the kind of quality you should look for when you are actually thinking about the fitness. So the thing is, what I truly believe is, capital was never a problem for me, because you need capital when you know exactly the supply is too much in your system, but the demand is not happening. So I think if it's a perfectly balanced
Right.
product for me or business plan for me. So if I try to supply more, I get more demand. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Karthik, so we start often a startup with the social impact in mind. I mean, that's what most startup owners, I don't know how many, what is the real thing, but we start with it and then the capital factor comes in. Does it happen in the journey of a startup that in the chase of the capital to attract capital, you forget the impact part of it? What is the best way to maintain that your focus stays on impact while you are also worried about capital?
I'm glad we brought this up. It's kind of a monthly question because we're constantly trying to grow and investments play a very important role in that. I think fundamentally, if you understand if investments are required for growth and not for loss funding, then you are up for something, right? I mean, fundamentally, if your business is cash flow positive and you're looking to expand your business and the profits are able to help you also to support to grow, then you're on the mindset wise, you're right. But if you're constantly trying to give a story to an investor and continuously using the funds to fund your loss, then there's some fundamental issue in your thinking. Um, I think capital to me should be used towards creating platforms for scale and not towards to back sometimes unfortunately is entrepreneur's dream, which could not be practically on your balance sheet, doesn't reflect your balance sheet. So to me, capital is important if you're planned well and if you have good control and processes to manage your business. And more importantly, capital I would put towards building platforms for scale and to drive efficiency and to monitor quality and not to fund my loss.
Let me rephrase it a bit, Siraj, for you and Akshay. Uh, do we need to stay innovative just to chase the capital?
So
Has it? No, I mean, my question should be that does it often happen that people are innovating because they want to attract just the capital?
see, this is a very subjective question. Abhi, that depends on the entrepreneur, right? So what your core values are. So if your core values are really strong and you have some you have a great product, you have a great innovation in your hand, money, I think, is something that is a byproduct. If you have a great product, you'll have hundreds of them chasing you with their money and say, please take my money. And then it's up to you to choose who you want to work with. That brings me to the second part of it. Can money really change your whole idea and your innovation and your roadmap? Yes, it can. But again, it comes back, it depends on how the entrepreneur is looking at it. I'm very clear. I wouldn't take a investor who would tell me to change the ethos of my company or change my whole path in which I'm going. So I'll be very choosy with who I want to partner with, because I, as an entrepreneur, I've started this from scratch. I know what my vision is and how far I want to go with this. And I'm going to take people on board, only those who are going to help us grow. And yes, we're going to put in the right kind of expertise and mentorship in telling us what is the best way to achieve this target, but not someone who's going to change the goalpost and say, nahi, abhi ye nahi karna hai, paison ke liye yahi karna hai. This is what's good. So that's something that I would never work with. But like I said, it's subjective. There could be some entrepreneurs who are looking at real scale and then an exit, and that's their way of working and their way of looking at it, but not my way of looking at it. And I'm very clear and very focused with what I want to do. And I feel that innovation attracts money. A great product attracts capital, and it's never the other way around. It can never be the other way around.
Right. Akshay, how do you balance the commercial forces with the motto of your startup, which is often a social impact? You know, give me I mean, how do you do it, first of all?
So in social impact as well, I think there are two types of routes you can take. One is purely from a perspective of creating good in the society, and the other is solving a problem commercially, a social problem commercially. There are two different, a slight difference between the two. One is purely driven on donations or grants. The other is driven on that it is a requirement of the future. It makes commercial sense, but at the same time, it also has a social impact. Like what we are trying to do in terms of solving climate change with our battery technologies does not need to require, doesn't require grants and donations. It is a viable commercial business and it can be taken up in that way. And I think social, so to say, routes of innovation, those ones are more scalable, where there is a established commercial business model out there. Because in that sense, you are not begging somebody to just trust you and give you donations or grant, but rather there is a commercial business out there. And at the same time, you're able to create social value at the same time. Yeah.
Right. So Karthik, coming to you, most of the startups have a large and a sizable tech component, wherein, they execute, they make it simpler. And what is in technology itself, what happens that every 3 to 5 years, things change. Is that also a big challenge for the owner of the startup to, go back to the boarding room and redraw the things? What is the best way of staying afloat in a profitable way and yet come to terms with these changing tech cycles?
Absolutely. Firstly, we need to understand the importance of tech in your business and not like an icing on a cake to attract an investor, right? Sometimes we bring in technology more like an icing, and
It's like a film trailer. Yeah, exactly.
so if you understand your business, if it needs technology to scale up and to drive efficiency or to monitor quality, yes, you should. So, and that's the way things are going. I mean, the new customers that are coming in to any of our businesses are going to be tech is a day-to-day in lifestyle of their way they're living. So according to me, tech comes in from a customer engagement standpoint. how better are you able to capture information and engage with your customers. Second, tech comes into monitoring your quality. That means key information is captured. Every touch points are captured so that you can go back to the drawing board and see where things went wrong and you can fix it. More importantly, in the healthcare space I am in, at least, where tech really helps in your overall quality monitoring, right? Today, most of the healthcare quality monitoring is very manual, and with automation, with AI, and with passive sensors and motion sensors, we're able to capture those information without human interface or human error. And that helps us to constantly capture where things could go wrong, or to monitor and govern your business better and to scale up better.
So I was talking about tech cycles, they change so often that you are scaling your business and here is a new tech thing you have to also deal with. Is it a roadblock or is it something that has to be seen in a good way? How do startup owners look at it?
Tech can never be a roadblock. Tech is an enabler. Tech is giving me the opportunity and the platform to reach out to millions and millions of people. There is only so much that you can do offline. Online is an ocean. It's the atmosphere. It's like everybody's there. In today's world, everybody is there, virtual and online. So it's the easiest and the fastest way to catch the imagination of your consumer. So if I have to reach out, so if in the last 11 months of our existence, if people have to know me, how would that even be possible offline? It just wouldn't have been. It would take me 10 years till people would know what Wakao is and what we do and the work that we do. But today, it's just with a click of the button, entire India and the world can see what we are and what we do. So tech is something that is going to become integral, and it has already become. And those few companies which are not using tech will have to innovate. The faster they do it, it will be better for them, because that's going to really disrupt their growth. And I'm very confident, and I feel that tech is one of our you call it the most integral part of our business. And although we are an agri tech company, we are a company that does food products, but tech is the backbone, and that's going to take us to the masses and going to take us pan India.
So, I mean, you were talking about earlier that you started your classes at, say, a certain price, to attract, and there was a certain technology you used. And then over the years, tech changes, it upgrades. For an entrepreneur, how do you deal with this cost and keep your profits? I mean, do you look at it that I have to do it now, or I can sell it on my brand name for some time and later do it? How urgent is the need to scale up tech-wise for an entrepreneur?
I think I'm right now. I'm feeling like I should have done little bit part on developing our tech, because since this business started, you wouldn't believe, but we were on Google Sheets and on WhatsApp messages, and then we were taking all the follow-ups, and it was working very well for us. But the moment we are starting to grow up to 1,000 people a team, then 1,000 people are getting into the challenge and they are doing it. Now I feel that, okay, tech can do one thing sorted for me, that is efforts which are not productive, but you have to do it in a very layman's term, donkey work, which can actually take care of it, and just make sure that you are, whatever you are actually doing in the company, you are doing your best, and you are just optimizing your efforts up to 100%. So I believe if I hire a trainer, his total skill set is to make sure the person is getting transformed into a very good lifestyle. But otherwise, if he spends too much time on editing things and put so much effort on making sheets look clear or something like that, that is not their job. So I really want to develop a tech which can help my trainers go places sitting at their place.
Yeah, actually, tech advancement is a core of any startup. And I say that because if you will not disrupt yourself in the technology that you're using or the technology that you're building or putting forward in the market, somebody else will come and eat your breakfast. So it is a constant process of innovation, constantly disrupting your own technology or your own products and services. That's how a startup grows. So we have to upgrade. There's no other choice.
So Karthik, we have 10 more minutes. What also happens is the founder of any new startup, disruptive idea, puts in efforts, and then you have a whole mushrooming of the same idea happening. One, how do you stand out during that kind of a churn, that phase? How do you stand out? What is the best way for the guy who had the original idea to stand out?
But first, to just step back, to repeat what I said earlier, competitors are good. First, we have to believe that those competitors are the only one who's going to constantly push you to be in the front runner than just sitting back in a comfortable space.
So you don't need to read inspiration quotes; they are there, right?
Exactly. They're going to constantly push you from behind, because the minute you're going to start relaxing, they're going to overtake you. So that's something I strongly believe in. A competitor keeps me running in front, especially in my industry. Second of all, I don't think we should worry about competition. It's good, it builds a lot of awareness, especially in the growth sector. It helps, brings a lot of awareness. They're going to talk about the same thing that what you're going to doing. So awareness building, they do bring in. But for us to constantly be upfront, it's to maintain, ultimately it goes back to your customers and your quality. If you're able to understand your customer and you're able to keep them happy, I don't think you have to worry about customers, because customers will come to you. Ultimately, we are all fighting for customers. We are all fighting for business. So one, understanding your customers, keeping them engaged and keeping them happy. Second, of course, innovation, that's where it comes in. There is a new generation of customers that are coming in. If you don't understand what they need and how they want their service to be delivered, you are again behind. So constantly being upfront, being the front runner, innovation, and focus on your quality and listening to your customer is going to constantly keep you upfront.
Sir, so your domain, there are people listening, and if they start 20 other jackfruit things, the original guy, does he benefit? How does he see it? I mean, how does he maintain that edge over others because he had started first?
So I always believe that more the merrier, in the sense it's a category invention. I'm talking about my product. It's a category invention that we did. So it would only help us bring more awareness. The first thing that we had to do was make people aware, educate the people about this. So more people coming in only brings more awareness and shows and tells the public that this is a great product, please try it. Right. Having said that, there are certain quality controls, certain brand guidelines that we've built, and we would be known for that. So as a first mover, the aim always for Wakao has been to be synonymous with jackfruit. So when someone thinks of jackfruit, they should say Wakao. That is the aim. It's like
so
how
category builder,
correct. Then
right.
Then there could be 200 people who come in, but they'll always be chasing up and trying to match Wakao, because Wakao has already established itself as a jackfruit manufacturer. So that's another thing. And then people would know us for our quality, for our taste, for our innovation, for the new things that we keep doing. So today we have Wakao. By mid of next month, you'll see what Wakao is going to do. You're going to disrupt the market with something really new. So that's how it's going to work. It's just going to keep disrupting with different products, different quality things. And I think that's why we will keep ourselves there, and the rest will be chasing. That's what you need to do.
Praneeth and Akshay, how do we deal with the copycats in the same category?
So actually, I have a slightly different take on this. Mushrooming is good in the same sector and industry, but if there is too much mushrooming happening with exactly the same offering and same product, then I think we as entrepreneurs or as innovators have set the bar too low. You have not innovated enough
I like this point.
to
Wonderful.
basically
I think
create
we
that
need a round of
barrier.
applause from my side. We haven't heard it in virtual. Okay.
So there has to be a significant barrier that you need to create as an innovator. Otherwise, anybody can copy what you're doing. Anybody can kind of offer the same thing, and then it's price war. Innovation is not about price war. In the core essence of innovation is to get away from price war and offer something which is truly disruptive.
Absolutely. Set the bar so high that they can't scale it. Yes. Prani.
Right.
I've got a threat from Chetan that 5 minutes. So.
Okay. So actually, I completely agree with him. And I have a little more to add on it. See, copycatters are very important. They play a huge role in actually making the customers understand the filter. Okay, let's say if you wanted to buy an iPhone, but you ended up buying an MI phone, you always wanted to buy an iPhone. So you know that you actually compromised on quality.
Right.
So that's what as innovators we should be always focusing on what people want, and also making them aware that what kind of a quality benchmark you can provide them. So automatically all the filters are getting settled underneath you.
Right. I want to bring in a TV format, 30 seconds to each of one of you, starting with you, Karthik. Uh, Startup owners, entrepreneurs, so busy. Do they get time off to innovate, look down, take like on a beach, legs straight, thinking about how do you do that? I mean, you need that time, right?
Absolutely. If you don't get set aside, you'll be lost in your day-to-day operations, especially with limited resources. So you have to plan it. I think as part of our routine, we have a weekly disruptive innovation meeting where we call frontline workers, not executive people, because executive people are lost in their day-to-day operations. So bring the frontline people into a drawing board, and we put the issue up on a whiteboard, and we brainstorm on ideas, listening to your audience, which is your customers and your employees. You'll get better ideas than yourself.
Sairaj, do you lounge in Goa and do this? I mean, how do you do
So
it?
I live in paradise. So I'm constantly innovating and chilling. So my job in the company is to only innovate and to think and to get new ideas on board. We have a very efficient team, and I'm not a control freak. So I let go of a lot of things for others to do and for others to execute. And honestly speaking, my work is to innovate and to get new ideas and to grow the business in different verticals.
Yeah, I think initial 2 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I wasn't taking any break. I think sometimes it is 18 hours, sometimes 24/7 you are working on the field. But in today's day, I really feel that I need some kind of mentoring happening, because not coming from a business background and not having enough ideas about what I need to do, I really take some time out, and actually I take some time out with my senior management people who are actually working with me, so that we can go out, we can think about what is happening. Sometimes what happens is we are so much connected with our reality, we forget that sometimes we just get distracted from the basics. Sometimes ideas are so much that sometimes we feel that this is something which might work for us, but we are losing out on our core value. So
Right.
just to make sure that we are coming back online, we need to line up back, we need to get out of little bit of stress,
Perfect.
chill together.
Akshay, final words.
Yes, so I think as an entrepreneur, the primary, so to say, responsibility of an entrepreneur is to kind of bring automation into the organization. Because when the organization is running on itself, then as a founder, you can constantly innovate, think about future strategies. Otherwise, it is just not possible. You'll be always firefighting.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. I hope it was an interesting session. If you guys want a slice of jackfruit, please have a round of applause. Yes, is a question. I'm sorry we're out of time, but we can take it offline. They're captive with us for the rest of the afternoon, so we'll meet outside. Thank you so much once again.